Pretty awesome view, right? Well, let me tell you about something I would love to see. I would love to see a day when I can walk into my local gun shop, throw down some cash, pass a background check, and walk out with a silencer, suppressor, that same day. I would love to see that. Now, there is a bill in Congress right now, or in the House, called the Firearms Hearing Suppression Act, if I'm not mistaken, that would allow us to do just that. It will take suppressors or silencers off of the National Firearms Act list, making it so that we don't have to pay that $200 tax stamp and wait for months and months and months to get a suppressor. There's a lot of reasons why this is an awesome thing, and I would love to see it pass. Is it going to pass? Well, that's another story, and we might talk a little bit more about that in this video. But if you want to skip the video and just show your support by asking your member of the House or your senators to support this bill, just use the form down in the description that I've provided for you. It's basically a form letter that you will immediately send out to your representative and to your senators, declaring your support for it and begging and asking them to also support it. So I encourage you to go ahead and use that form right now. You don't have to watch the rest of the video, but do so if you feel like it. Let me talk about that Suppressor Act and why I think this is a fantastic thing. Now, it kind of still blows my mind why suppressors are a part of the National Firearms Act in the first place. Now, I wasn't there when it was written, when it was passed, so I guess the state of mind in the country, in Congress, I don't really know and I can't really speak to. But I guess I can make some assumptions. What I would assume is people looked at suppressors and figured these were dangerous or, extra dangerous things that you add onto your gun to make them, I guess, more deadly somehow. And the only rationale I can come up with for that is they seem scary. And when you see them in films and they have, this kind of sound like a laser gun or something, and they're very, very quiet from a film standpoint, well, that's fake, obviously. If you've ever shot a suppressor, and I've shot through several suppressors, you know that they don't actually sound like that. And it actually varies quite a bit depending on the caliber or the round that you're actually shooting through that gun and through that suppressor. But to say the least, it doesn't sound like that, okay? It still breaks the sound barrier. It still has that loud crack. And so there is still quite a report that you hear even when you're firing a gun with a suppressor on it. However, it is quieter. It's definitely quieter. But that's the only reason I can think of that folks would look at suppressors and say, we need to control them, we need to regulate them, because they add a level, I should say, of more deadliness to firearms. They actually don't. The Firearms Hearing Protection Act, again, makes it so that we could potentially walk home with a silencer or suppressor the same day that you purchase it. Lay down your cash for however much that suppressor costs. You don't have to pay extra tax. You don't have to wait months and months. You just get to take that home right away. You can take your kids shooting. If somebody forgot their earmuffs or their earplugs, no big deal. It's not a problem because it's relatively quiet. If you're shooting somewhere that's relatively close to, other shooters or maybe a residential area, no big deal because it is, again, relatively quiet. There are tons of reasons why suppressors and silencers ought to be readily available to everybody that owns firearms. But I'll also point out maybe some of the reasons why today people might actually oppose something like this. Why they might say, well, it should stay as part of the National Firearms Act, and it should not be deregulated and made legal for anybody to just walk in and buy one. I don't want to give ammunition to the opponents, but this idea is going to be out there and people are already thinking of this, so I might as well throw it out there. Say that someone's walking into, let's say, an office building or something. Maybe it's a disgruntled former worker. We've heard stories about that kind of a thing before. And let's say they walk in and let's say they think, well, first person I'm going to go and shoot is that guy over there. And hopefully I'll be able to shoot lots of people or whatever. And this is, again, the twisted mind that we're inside of right now. And this person says, well, I'm going to use a suppressor because then I can shoot this person and then nobody's alerted to it. And then I can shoot this person, nobody's still alerted to it. And then I can shoot that person, that person, and that person. People still haven't set off alarm bells. Maybe this is the thoughts that are going through the minds of people who are still opposing something like this. They're like, well, this makes it easier for somebody who wants to commit a mass murder to commit that mass murder and get away with it to some level. I don't believe that's got any real validity to it. The potential twisted mind shooter that we're talking about here is more than likely to alert someone inadvertently. Somebody's going to walk by, somebody's going to notice, somebody's going to see. The sound is actually going to be quite a bit louder than we imagine it would be, or this person who is against the law imagines it would be. And so you still hear a report, you still hear something that's like a loud door slam, and then people are alerted to that, and then you hear screams. Why do you hear screams? Because anybody that witnesses this sort of thing screams. They talk about it, they shout about it, they yell about it, they alert people immediately. Now this is a kind of a disheartening thing to reach into and think about. But again, I'm trying to reach into the mind not only of the twisted shooter, but also the person who opposes this law because of what they perceive that twisted shooter as thinking. There's going to be a level of alertness achieved very, very quickly in those scenarios, and therefore the supposed or the advantage that the twisted shooter might think he has in that scenario, or the anti-gun person thinks the twisted shooter might have in that scenario, he doesn't have. He doesn't actually have that advantage. So because of that, I think that whole reason is just negated. The only real argument is the valid argument that states we should be able to buy suppressors whenever we feel like it. I should be allowed to own a different suppressor for every caliber, every type of round that I shoot. I should be able to have one for 22, for .223, for 30-06, for AK, for whatever. I should be allowed and be able to buy all those suppressors if I want to own them. Then I can take them shooting, I can go shooting with all those rifles, I can forget my ear protection and be fine, I can take my kids out and they're not startled and frightened by the crack and the loud sound that would come from that gun otherwise, and they're more comfortable shooting and they become safer shooters because they're more comfortable shooting, and the people shooting around us are more comfortable, and the people driving by 100 yards away on that road are more comfortable because these startling cracks and these startling sounds aren't there. And we come to associate firearms as being far more just fun and recreational and exciting. One more extremely important reason why we should all be able to own firearm suppressors is because firearms aren't just for recreation. They are also, and more importantly, for self-defense. And if I'm going to use one in my home, it's very likely that I will forget my ear protection when I go to use that firearm for self-defense. Because of that, not only will I have the unfortunate situation of having to shoot somebody in my home who is perhaps an intruder, but also I might damage my own hearing as a result of that. Now, that's a small price to pay, I suppose you could say, but I would really like to not have to pay that price. And if I can keep my wits about me and be able to get through that situation more easily and without that sort of heightened adrenaline kind of shutting down some of my reflexes, I would love to be able to do that. I would love to have that capacity. Not that I would love to do that, but I'd love to have that capacity in that situation. So that right there is one of the most important reasons why I say everybody who owns a firearm should be allowed to own a suppressor without any additional and ridiculous tax stamps and background checks. I would love to see the day when I can walk into my local gun shop, throw down $300, $400, $800, whatever it might be, and get that suppressor and take it home on the same day. I would love to see that, and I hope you would love to see that too. Use the form down below, if you haven't already, to tell your senators and your representatives to support the Firearms Hearing Protection Act. Get that through, at least get it to the president's desk. Will he veto it? Probably. But if we get it that far, that sends a message. And next time around, when hopefully we have somebody in the White House who is a little more friendly to the Second Amendment, we're far more likely to get that thing passed. I'd love to see that day. It would be about as beautiful as this. I'm a late Boy Scout. Thanks for watching. See ya.